Hello. Imagine you're standing in a huge forest. You look up and towering above you are massive trees, seemingly independent. But what if I told you that beneath the soil, the trees are constantly communicating? Well, through an underground network, trees send signals and nutrients to each other. For example, a larger tree can share resources to a smaller, struggling tree, or a plant under attack by pests can warn its neighbors to prepare their defenses. And all of this happens without us ever noticing. It's fascinating, right? A single tree doing something as simple as sharing nutrients can help strengthen the entire forest. Now, I want you to think about a small, abstract riddle. Imagine you wake up one morning and you find a single grain of sand on your desk. No big deal, right? But the next day, there's another, and the day after that, another. At first, you barely notice, but what if this kept happening every single day? At first, it's a small pile, then a mound, and before you know it, your entire room is covered in sand. Now, here's the real question. At which exact point did the tiny grains actually stop being just sand and turned into something much bigger? Now, please think about this, and we will definitely get to it later, but for now, let's just carry on. You probably have heard of Tim Berners-Lee. Well, you might not know his name, but trust me, his invention is something you use every single day. You see, back in the late 80s, he was working at CERN and was just trying to find a way for researchers to share information more easily. So he came up with a system to connect documents with hyperlinks. Seems simple, right? He wasn't trying to revolutionize the communication. He was just making his job easier. Fast forward a few years and boom, the World Wide Web was born. The internet as we know it today. The thing that lets us watch TV shows, Google random facts at 2 a.m. or even message our friends, and it changed everything, all because one guy tried to make his job easier. And what's even better, he didn't patent it. He could have made billions, but instead, he chose to give it away for free because he believed that knowledge should be accessible to everyone. And that one decision made it possible for the internet to grow and connect people all over the world. We tend to think big changes come from big moves, government decisions, global initiatives, or massive campaigns, but let's be real, most of us aren't world leaders. So does that mean we can't have an impact? You guessed it, it doesn't. Think about it. Most world-changing ideas didn't start with people actually trying to change the world. It started with someone doing something small, something that they would do in their everyday life. Now, let's look at something even smaller. Ever heard of the post-it notes? Small sticky notes people write reminders on, sometimes stick them on their desks. Well, in 1970s, a scientist named Spencer Silver was trying to find a way for researchers, he was trying to find a way to create a very strong glue. But instead, he created a glue that was quite weak. It could stick to things, but could also be peeled off quite easily. Seems useless, right? Well, no. A few years later, his colleague had a small problem. His bookmarks kept falling from his books. And that's when he remembered Spencer's weak glue. He put it on some small pieces of paper, and boom, the post-it notes were born. At first, no one really thought much of them, but today, they're everywhere. Classrooms, offices, even space stations. A simple invention born from a tiny problem turned into something millions of people use every day. It's proof that even the smallest actions by the most ordinary people can turn into something huge. The truth is, you don't even have to invent the internet or start a massive campaign to actually have an impact. Every small decision, whether it is helping someone out or even starting a small conversation, can start a chain reaction. You probably remember that riddle I asked you to think about. So back to the question. At which exact point did the sand turn from being just sand into burying your whole room? Well, you or everyone may interpret it differently, but I personally believe that there was no particular point for that. I mean, the first grain counted just as much as the hundredths or even the last one. At the end of the day, it's not about changing the world in one giant leap. It's about the small things we do every day that make our world a little better. And sometimes that is enough to set something amazing in motion. Thank you.